crafters, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Whitney, your host, owner of Needles, Embroidery, and Clothing. You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, and now Instagram. This is my first video for my new series all about applique and embroidery, and today we are going to be talking about is bigger better? And what I mean by that is a bigger machine better than a smaller machine? So I'm going to first start out with giving you the pros and cons of only purchasing a small one needle machine. Okay, and I have written these down, and I actually went online and found some pros and cons of this on Embroidery.com, and I will put a link in the description below for you, because it's a great read for you, especially if you are new to embroidery or considering the possibilities of purchasing an embroidery machine. And I want you to get the best information out there so you are completely satisfied with what you just put your money on. Okay, so let's start with the pros of a single needle machine. First off, they are way more affordable, and you could probably purchase one at your local Walmart, or even if you have a sewing shop in your town, you might be able to order it through them. There's also the option of getting it shipped to you from online, and you don't have to pay an exorbitant amount of money for shipping. The next thing is they are transportable. Because they're so small, they can pack up in a special hard case box, and you can, with a handle, and you can actually transport your machine anywhere that you want to be. So say that you want to do some work at your friend's house, all you have to do is put it in that hard case and take it over to your friend's house. Take a few spools of thread and you're good to go. So it's really easy to move around, and the smaller machines are pretty hardy, so they're basically set up to look like a traditional sewing machine with a flat bed, so that your garment can actually rest on the flat bed. It's similar to this, what I have back here, but this one can be moved off and on. The one on the single needle machines cannot be removed. So they're pretty good. Okay, another pro. Of course, single needle machines are great for beginners. If you are wanting to start embroidery just for yourself, this is a perfect machine to go and buy, because you're able to put initials on garments. You're able to do a little 4x4 applique if you have a baby, from some burnt cloths, just those little appliques. And it's on your machine. Single needle machines are great, and they last for a long time because there is less jarring of the needle head. The needle is actually stationary, and the only thing that moves is the arm of the machine that holds your hoop, which has your fabric on it or your garment. So that's the only thing that moves back and forth. So your needle is going up and down, but it's not moving itself. And that actually really prolongs the life of your embroidery machine, because there's not that jarring. You're not going to have to worry about knocking it off the table or anything like that. It's also a great machine if you have a small space. If you are working in a 10 by 12 or a 10 by 10 space room, you're not going to have a lot of space to put a large embroidery machine. So if you're limited on space, or you're working from your kitchen table, the single needle is the way to go. Also, let's see, while this can be a pro and or a con, But single needle machines mainly work with a computer. So if you are computer savvy, this machine would be a good way to start out, because you're going to have to work with your software over here, pull in your designs from a website or from another business that you purchased it from, and then transfer it to your embroidery machine with either a USB or a card reading machine. And some people like that, some people don't. It's really what you prefer. If you're not good with computers, there are some built-in files that you can use that are already built into the brain of your embroidery machine, and those are really simple to use. They have several different fonts and maybe a couple embroidery files, like a little songbird or something like that. May stitch that all out. I'm pretty sure that they would not include an applique. An applique is fabric on fabric with that beautiful bordering stitch, satin stitch around that. I doubt that it would have that on there, but you never know. They're coming out with new stuff and adding stuff all the time to these machines. Okay, cons. You can only do smaller projects, and that is really the biggest thing to me, or one of the biggest cons to me, is smaller projects. Most of them you might only be able to do a 4x4 embroidery or applique project. So if you're just wanting to do initials on clothes, or your kid is in a school where they have to have their initials on something, then that's a good buy, because you're not wanting to use it for anything more. But if you're wanting to do larger stuff, the one needle is not something that you want to look at. The most common hoop sizes, let me just read this off for you. A 4x4, like I was just now talking about, so you have to read in the description what size hoop you can get. I bumped into a lady recently who bought a 4x4 machine, and she was pretty satisfied with it because she was only going to put initials or do small projects. Some other common hoop sizes is a 5x7, which is about the size of a picture. That's a pretty good size, standard size for onesies, and a 4x4 is good for a onesie too. 6x10 and an 8x12, and 8x12 is actually getting up there in size. You would really have to research how the size hoops that come with the embroidery machine. Okay, another con is the one needle machine. If you're working with a project that has several thread colors in it, you're going to have to sit there, and every time one stitch finishes, you're going to have to change the thread yourself. And if you have more than 2 or 3 thread changes, it can take you a really long time to change those threads and get it ready for the next step. Another con is if you actually decide, once you have your one needle and you decide that you want to start doing projects for your friends and family and actually make a little bit of money, or maybe you want to mass produce something, it's going to take you a very long time to actually produce something that has a lot of thread changes, just because of the nature of the beast. It's one needle, it only has one point of contact with a spool, and yeah, it could take a long time for you. Okay, going back to the flatbed, where I was telling you that it looks more like a traditional sewing machine, that flatbed actually can prevent you from doing ready-made garments like handbag or bags and some t-shirts or things with pockets, because there's no place for you to actually hang that extra fabric below. So you're going to have to get creative and turn it inside out and loop it over your machine. And I've seen it. It is possible, but it makes it difficult when you have to try to hoop it. And that can be a real negative, negative when using a one needle machine. All right, multi-needle machines. I personally own a multi-needle machine. It's a 10 needle. It's an Entrepreneur PR1000E. It's by Brother, and I highly recommend Brother. I know that everyone has their favorites. Janome makes good ones, and here's another one. Well, I can't think of the other ones, but Brother is what I have. Okay, multi-needles. Already comes with, you can pick a 4, which is called a Quattro, or a 10, up to a 10 needle. There's 4, 6, and 10. And then there is some industrial size, it's like 15, but I'm pretty sure that it would be so much money. Yeah, it'd be like way, 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 way down in the future for me. So the positive thing about having a 4 or 8, 10 needle is that each needle holds its own color. Each needle threads up through their guide and over into the back, and that's where the spools of threads are housed. So you have fewer fewer thread changes. You're able to do and mass produce projects a lot faster, and it has better precision with the multi-needles. The common hoop sizes are similar to the one needle. You have a 4x4, a 5x7, a 6x10, and an 8x12, as well as an 8x14 and a 14x14. And I have both of those larger frames, and I really, really like those. I use the 8x14 frame all the time. Okay. So I said, and as I said before, 10 needles, 4 to 10 needle, it stitches out a lot faster. You have a wide range of speed stitches per minute. So you can go down all the way down to like 300 stitches per minute or up to 1,000 stitches per minute. And for me, I like to stay within the 600 and 700 range. I feel like there's less jarring of the needle head. And okay, there is a free embroidered arm. And what that means is basically the arm sticks out like this. Instead of having a flatbed like the single needle machine, it has an arm that sticks out. And your bobbin, the under thread, goes into that arm. I'm going to put her down real quick. So it has that arm and the bobbin goes in it, and the needle actually comes down. Only one needle works at a time. But, so that's a common misconception, is the needle, that because you have 10 needles, they all work at at the same time. No. One needle works at a time, one thread color, and it goes down into the arm where your garment is laying. And the arm does not move at all. It's the carriage over here that moves back and forth. And because it has that arm, you are able to drape larger pieces of fabric over, and it kind of hangs safely underneath. You can do bags, large bags. You can just set the bag on top and let the bottom of the bag hang down in that carriage. part. Oh, you can also, because it has that free arm, you can also do caps and get that hat hoop. It's an additional price cost when you buy your embroidery machine, but it is well worth the money. If you can get down those caps, people want caps and hats and visors. It's a great purchase. The cons, there's only a few cons, but they're major ones. The first one is they are really expensive. If you are wealthy and you can put 10 grand down on a machine, then this is a machine that you can have for, you know, a blink of an eye. But for some of us, like myself, you have to pull out, make credit card payments, or you have to save up for a really long time. So just think about that. It's quite pricey because you're not just buying the machine, you're also buying other stuff. And that is actually going to be in my future video of materials and items that you need to actually get started. So the expense is something to really consider when you're purchasing, if you decide to purchase a multi-needle machine. Okay, you can use a computer software program to work with your machine, and I have that too. And I actually prefer using my computer over using the digital images that are already pre-programmed into my embroidery machine. But you have to make sure that you pre-program those thread stops. Otherwise, it'll just keep using the same color over and over. And so if you have multi-layers, like an applique, and you want to put your fabric down, but you didn't program a stop in there, it'll do that tack down stitch, and then it'll just go ahead and finish your project, and you didn't even have your colored fabric down. So you have to pre-program that into the software before you actually start stitching. That's one of the cons. Another con is because you have because it has 4 or 10 needles, that needle head, the needle head or needle housing moves to wherever that next thread color is. So there's a lot of jarring where it goes back and forth. There's a lot of things that are being shaken up when you do that. So be mindful of that when you pre-program your colors and choose the colors or rearrange the threads on your spools to make less movements as possible, drastic movements as possible. So if you have 1 or 2 needles up here, and this more or less goes for like a 6 or a 10 needle, you use 1 and 2 needles over here, and then your next color is 10. That's a lot of movement. So be thinking about that when you're ready to prepare your embroidery file. Okay, so the question I am posing to you is bigger better? That can only really be answered by you. Your needs, your budget, and what you're willing to invest in the machine. So, having said that, please leave a comment below in the description box or comments, or please leave a comment below of what you think is better, the single needle or the multi-needle. And be sure to give me a thumbs up if you like this video and want to see future videos. Thank you. You want to be heard? You like the videos, don't you? Yeah. And please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Whitney, your host, and owner of Needles, Embroidery, and Clothing. Please stop by and see my next video in this series of embroidery and applique. It's going to be great. And if you have any questions about, if you want to know anything more about the pros and cons of a single versus a multi-needle, leave me a comment below. I'd be happy to answer it for you. And also check out my Facebook page. My little cheerleader over here. Facebook page and Pinterest. I'm now on Pinterest, as well as I'm just now starting out on Instagram. So check those out and like and follow me. I'll see you later in the next video. Bye.